Hey everyone, today's video topic is soil conservation, also known as soil stewardship. You're going to be using the notes at the bottom of page 61 in your notebooks today to follow along. There's going to be more information in the PowerPoint than is actually in your notes, so you can feel free to add anything in as we go through that you feel might be necessary. There are a couple of slides that are not listed in your notes that I will let you know when we get to them that you should jot down some notes about. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by just reviewing a little bit about soil erosion, and explaining what soil stewardship means. So this is not in your notes, but it is important for you to understand what soil stewardship is. And stewardship is the responsible planning and management of resources. Therefore, soil stewardship is the responsible planning and management of the soil. So making sure that we are taking care of our soil, we are planning appropriate techniques for maintaining soil quality, we're managing that appropriately, all of those things helping to maintain soil quality, that is soil stewardship. So let's review soil erosion. This is when we have wearing away of the soil or the loss of soil. And there are some natural causes of soil erosion. We've talked about some of these. Some of these are listed in your notes from the other video that we did last week. But some of the natural causes, things that are really out of our control, are wind, water, or rain, and gravity. Basically, if you have a hill or a mountain, gravity is going to be pulling down on the sediment that is there, which will cause that soil to erode. And then ice is also a natural cause of soil erosion. So glaciers, as they are moving, they're scraping over top of soil and causing it to erode. Now, in addition to some of the natural causes, there are some other causes of soil erosion. And these are the ones that we do have a little bit more control over. And these are the ones where soil stewardship is going to come into practice. Farming, mining, and construction. These are causes of soil erosion that, as humans, we do have a direct control over. So when people are farming, there are things that they can do to help prevent soil erosion. Same thing with mining and with construction. Now, severe weather is going to speed up soil erosion. And again, these are things we do not have control over. Storms, tornadoes, floods, any of those natural disasters or severe weather that occur are going to cause soil erosion to go even faster. So it's important that we preserve or save our soil. We talked last week about the fact that without soil, basically we would not be able to live. Soil is what we use to grow plants. Plants are our primary producer. They provide us with nutrition. They provide animals with nutrition. Basically, they're the bottom of the food chain, and without our plants, we wouldn't be able to live. Without soil, we wouldn't have plants. So it's extremely important that we preserve our soil. So let's briefly, before we talk about some of these ways to protect our soil, I want to just briefly review what good soil means. And this is where your notes pick up, and you don't need to copy anything down. These notes are all just there. But remember, when we are talking about soil, our good soil means that it's dark in color, it's going to be high in nutrients, organic and inorganic, so our humus and our minerals. It's not too dry. It's also not too wet. It's going to be slightly acidic in pH, typically about a 6 or a 7. There's not going to be too much sand or clay, and you're going to have a deep layer of topsoil. Now, the reason we review these is because these are things we need to make sure we protect. And the way that we're going to protect them is through good farming practices. Again, we can only control so much, so we want to focus on things that we are able to control, and farming is one of those. So the next several slides are going to go through some of these good farming practices. The first one is contour plowing, and this is in your notes. So contour plowing is when farmers will plow along curves or contours of a slope to prevent water from running straight downhill. Now, if you've ever flown over the United States and looked out of the airplane window, you might have seen some things that look like these pictures down here. You see these curves, all right? And those are plowed into the earth so that when water is running, it does not just run straight down and carry all of that soil away with it. The next technique is conservation tillage. Now, tillage is basically plowing. If you till a field, you are plowing that field. Here's a picture of a farm, a piece of farm equipment that would till a field. But conservation tillage just means we're going to reduce the number of times that a farmer does that in a year. Because every time they do that, they are digging up that topsoil and they're loosening it, and then it's becoming susceptible to some of those natural causes of erosion: wind, water, gravity, those types of things. So if we reduce the number of times you do that in a year, then it's going to help preserve that soil. Crop rotation is our third farming technique. And this is when farmers are going to plant different crops on the same field in different years. Now, you might be wondering why this would be beneficial. Well, different crops are going to have different nutrients in their roots and in their decomposition. So different nutrients being put back into the soil causes it to become very nutrient rich. It's not going to be just the same thing year after year after year. So it keeps it fresh, it keeps it rich by rotating what you plant there. So one year it might be corn, the next year they might plant cotton, and then the following year it might be tomatoes. Now there's two more farming practices we're going to talk about, and these are not listed in your notes, so you might want to jot these down. You've got some blank space down in the corner. But the fourth one is terraces. This is not like what you walk out onto in your apartment building or in your house, but it's similar in theory. Terraces are going to be flat, step-like areas that are built on a hillside to prevent rainwater from running straight downhill. You can see some pictures here of these steps, basically, that have been created in the ground. And again, this is something, if you were flying over top of the land, you might look out a window of the plane and you might see things like this. All right, so this shows those step-like areas. And again, this is just preventing that water from running straight down the hill and taking all of the topsoil with it. And the fifth one is windbreaks. This is when farmers will plant rows of trees between their fields to break or reduce the force of wind. So here's some pictures, and you can see those crops. And then in between those crops, you see these trees that are planted, right? So those are hopefully going to reduce the ability of the wind to just come in and blow that topsoil away. Basically creates a wall or a shield for those crops and for those fields. So these are 5 strategies or practices that farmers can use to help reduce soil erosion. And if we did not have that protection, then these are some of the things that could occur. If we're not protecting our soil, then that soil can wash away in a mud flow following heavy rains. And you might have seen some images just like this one in the news after big storms and things like that, where that soil is just being washed away, flooded away, and many things cars and houses are being trapped in that soil. It could also erode and then deposit into a new place, and that new location might not be where we needed it. So we want to make sure that we're protecting our soil so that does not happen. Landslides could occur, and you can see a picture here where all of that soil has just slid right down the side of that mountain. This happens a lot out in California. Some of those multi-million-dollar homes that are on the hillsides out in California, oftentimes if they have any type of landslide occurring, those houses will end up getting destroyed. And you can also have slumping, and this is where the ground basically kind of breaks apart. And you can see here where that has occurred, right in along here. This at one point was flat, but due to poor soil conservation techniques, that soil has just sunken down in. So to summarize soil conservation, things that we want to do, we don't want to leave our soil bare. You want to keep plants planted in the soil, because when plants are planted in the soil, those roots grow down into the soil and they give it some stability. It keeps, if there's roots planted in it, it's going to keep it from eroding away, the wind, the water, all of those things. You want to use conservation and contour plowing techniques, rotating crops that are planted so that nutrients are going to stay in that soil. Again, remembering the qualities of good soil. We want it to be nutritious. We want there to be a lot of nutrients in it for our plants. We want there to be a thick layer of topsoil. So doing all of these things will help that to occur. Now you're going to do an activity in your notebooks. You will each receive a scenario that is related to soil erosion. And you're going to read your scenario, and then you need to decide on a solution to that problem. And your solutions are going to come from these different practices that we have just learned about in this video. Once you've decided on your solution, you're going to write your scenario and your solution in your notebook, and then you're going to draw a picture to help explain your thoughts. So why did you choose that solution? You're going to be doing this on page 58 in your notebooks, and it's important that you take your time and do good work on this, because tomorrow you're going to be using that information for another activity. And if you don't do a great job today and put the time in today, then tomorrow is going to be a lot more difficult for you. So you're going to receive those scenarios in just a minute, and you will be able to go ahead and get started on that. If you have any questions about any of this, or you need to go back and rewatch anything, you know you guys are always welcome to do that.